So you had to have known that we were not going to get through this process without me doing an orange soap when we are doing all of these beautiful juicings and, talking about specifically acidic stuff within soap. So yeah, it's an orange soap today. I'm super excited. I'll tell you more about the orange soap that we're making in just a minute. But before I do, hello, I am Mrs. Soap and Clay. Let's make stuff.
Just like the street lights lit this town.
How's it going, Sudzers? Welcome back to the channel. You are at Soap and Clay, where we make all the soapy things. And as I said, you're here for another entry in our acidic soap journey. And we're talking about reducing pH in soap and whether or not that matters. How you can incorporate acidic stuff within your soaps and whether or not that matters. What the benefits are of acidic stuff, I guess, generally in soap, but also whatever it is that we're working with. And so for today, it's orange, and whether or not that matters. All of the things. So we are doing a scientific, chemistry-based, soapy breakdown of ingredients, of what you can incorporate into your soaps, what benefit it provides for the finished product. Because ultimately with soaps, this is different than a cosmetic. This is a rinse-off product. And because of the differences within the pH and the things that are going to be impacted by the saponification or the lye solution itself, we definitely want to talk about what the overall performance of the soap will do if you incorporate X, Y, or Z ingredient, infusion, additive, Now we will be talking about orange more specifically within cosmetics and what it does topically when we do our orange cosmetics, but for now, we're focusing on soap. So we're going to juice some oranges. We are going to make an orange soap. This one is actually going to be a loofah soap because it is time for me to put my summer loofahs out. And so we're going to be playing with that as well. So let's get to the video and talk about all of the stuff and do the tests and all the things.
I see danger in your eyes.
So first up in the orange prep, we are going to be obviously peeling the oranges, and we will be using the actual orange peels for the cosmetics, and I'm going to be making an absolute with the orange peels and do some steam distillation and talk about steam distillation and whether or not it's going to impact the essential oils that can be found within the peel of an orange itself. And for the soap, we will not be using the peel. We are going to be using the actual orange juice. But I did want to show you, this part because I thought it was interesting to let you know that we're working with the peels too. We're going to do some fun stuff. So the juicing portion of the orange juice. What are oranges in general comprised of? They are about 85% water, and then from the remainder of that, all of the fibrous stuff that you see coming out there, is a little bit of fiber, dietary fiber and whatnot. And in addition to the water content, we have about 12% carbohydrates, and primarily you're going to find that in the form of sugars like glucose and fructose and sucrose. So we should be expecting from this, for our purposes, a better bubble, essentially. Should be a good lather, which is great for our purposes today because we are making a loofah soap. And since we are actually putting a loofah into a soap, I always want to make sure that I'm doing different additives as well as different oils to ensure a nice big bubble so the inclusion of the loofah does not, sort of inhibit that lather. And so extra sugars and all of this should be a good thing. I also did want to show you with the essential oils, or with the peels rather, what you get when you just cold press them, because that's what this juicing machine is. It is a cold press juicer, as you can see there. And so you actually do get a fair amount of liquid that comes out of it, as you can see in the bottom there. But that's not going to be an essential oil. That's going to be the water content that still remains in the peel, because remember, this is a fresh fruit. It has not been dried. So the bulk of that is still going to be water content. A little bit of oil, certainly, but not the best way to extract your essential oils from the actual, that from the actual peels. And so we will be doing a distillation method so you can see that. And that's just kind of the end results of all of it, as well as a very interesting substance that you're getting from, what is it, the pith, that white stuff that exists. So it's very creamy. It's kind of fun. I tasted it. It tasted like nothing, but I think it's kind of worth nothing as well. Probably mostly fibrous in that little goopy portion there, but we'll be separating them and using it for, again, distillation and within our cosmetics. So we will talk more about it at that point. For the actual soap itself, we will be substituting 100% of the water for the orange juice. Now, in addition to the carbohydrates and the water that you get within orange juice, you're also going to be getting quite a bit of vitamin C, which is also ascorbic acid, and other vitamins like vitamin A, thiamine, which is B1, and folate. Now, in addition to that, there's also a few kind of trace minerals like potassium, calcium, magnesium, and phosphorus, but we are not worried about what that's going to do in the finished soap because we did cover that during the sea moss journey. And I did want to just show you what we are looking at with the actual lye solution itself, because we are dealing with an acidic solution with the orange juice. And overall, ascorbic acid is about 3 to 4, so it's moderately acidic. And so that can consume a portion of your lye solution. Now, speaking of, because we have the vitamin C going on within all of this and ascorbic acid, will the vitamin C survive saponification? Short answer is no, it absolutely will not. It is definitely something that will be impacted by the sodium hydroxide because it's an acid hitting a base, so it's going to be degraded for sure. And so there's going to be significantly less vitamin C content in the overall solution, if any at all. So I think it is safe to say that vitamin C, if that's what you're hoping to get out of your finished product through soap, you're not going to get it. All right, these loofahs are getting, ready to go for the actual pour. So let's get to that and talk more about oranges. Okay, so we are getting ready to pour, and I'm pouring it hot. It's 110 degrees for the lye solution, 117, 16, 15-ish degrees for my oils, and I'm just going to go big or go home. And you also do see within all of that, we are getting the residuals within all of that. So what is that going to be? It's oily. So the short answer to that is we're getting some oil. Now, I didn't completely remove all of the white stuff from the oranges when I pressed them, and so it could be coming from that as well. So we do have additional super fat essentially within all of this, in that you are getting some oil from the juice itself, as well as just probably the sugar is doing a very syrupy type texture. It's very interesting and syrupy, the overall lye solution. Now I didn't pH test this for you guys like on camera, but I did pH test it and it still came out as basic can be. So very, very alkaline, which is good. So it had none effect on the actual alkalinity of the lye solution. Does that mean that the sodium hydroxide in its totality in the recipe it remains? No, some of that was absolutely consumed during the process of the ascorbic acid and the sodium hydroxide moving to neutralize themselves. So in addition to all of the minerals and the vitamins, we also have so what in orange? We have flavonoids. Flavonoids are actually really cool, right? I'll link it below in the description. I saw this article from last year about this group of like 11th grade students that won an inventors challenge last July called Fabnoids, and they created a bunch of soaps that were focused, that were flavonoid exclusive. And so they were using plants like onions and blackberries and dill, so no harmful chemicals, but heavy on the flavonoids to produce, an awesome soap and a sustainable soap. And so I thought that was very interesting, and I will definitely link that below, because flavonoids do, as we found in many of our studies with the tea soaps, and what else did we do recently that had a great flavonoid content? I don't know. But anyway, I thought that was really cool that they were looking into that too, because, Chemistry is fun and science is fun. And when you apply it to your soap making, you can create a better soap, and that's dope. Now, with all of this, I make a giant mess because I forgot to put any of the actual soap batter into that little pink, the mica. Yeah, that was just oil. And it was just oil that I reserved from the batch and then forgot to put the batter into it. So I'm just putting whole oil, unsaponified, just pure oil right into the middle of this to create some sort of whatever. End result is I created a big mess, and I'm happy to show that to you because also, do you notice how my liner is not closed? Yeah, that'll come up. So, in addition to flavonoids, terpenes, so there's that, and yeah, antioxidants. Antioxidants are going to be a good thing to put into soap because, I'm a disaster. Because we like antioxidants and free radical damage is bad, okay? So, doing those sorts of things is a good idea. Oh, it just gets worse. I love this. I love this for me, for you, for all of us, really. It's awesome. And so, yes, ultimately, what we will be looking for within the vitamin C soap is going to be a bigger bubble, primarily because of the amount of carbohydrates, the amount of sugars that exist within it. Do I expect to see much else? Probably not. I mean, you can do something like an orange peel exfoliant, and that can have buffing qualities as well as skin brightening qualities. The antioxidants could play a role, but again, we're dealing with rinse off products. And so all of this is primarily going to be focused on the actual performance of the bar itself. So we should see a shinier bar of soap with the extra sugars, we should see a harder bar, and we should see a really big, beautiful lather. Okay, and onto the cuts, and I've already like pre-scored this out. I'm cutting it super soft. Normally, when I make the loofah soaps, first up I do hydrate the loofah to make it easier for the loofah itself to absorb the soap because I don't want my end user to just get a little bit of soap in each thing and, just a dry loofah remaining. That kind of sucks. And so we do saturate the loofah before we actually incorporate it into the soap. But then after that, I usually freeze it because cutting round soaps generally is a pain in the butt. Cutters tend not to like them, and they work best if you're going to use your cutter for a regular round soap. That's fine. Make sure it's kind of firm. But when you're trying to cut through loofah within the inside, it can definitely break your cutter. And so I usually hand cut it and like to cut it while it's frozen. So generally I do put it into the freezer for a few hours and cut it while it is still very, very hard. I did not get an opportunity to do it for this one. And so everything is super soft and these bars kind of smoosh as you continue to apply pressure with the knife, a serrated knife, in order to cut through them. And so that's okay. It's extra work on this end for me to clean up the edges and apply all the soap that was kind of lost. But if you are doing loofah soaps or anything that has something firm inside, I highly recommend, especially if they're round, to freeze them before cutting. And then you don't have to go through this pain of fixing all of this. Soap itself, it is soft right now. This was about, I don't know, 8 to 10 hours after I poured it because I poured it hot and I wanted to see if we had any sort of weird pockets of the oil remaining after, because I put that, unsaponified oil, just straight fatty acids hanging out in all of there into the actual batter. And I wanted to see if, 8 hours or so after we poured, if we were going to have that big mess that we saw with the pink juices all over the place. And we don't. It is absorbing and it will continue to absorb through cure. It did continue to absorb through cure, but there's definitely no leaky portions. So that's good. That's good to know. I did not pop this as I did pour it hot. And just generally speaking, I don't have an oven made for the tall column molds. I have an oven made for loaf molds and slab molds. But for this, usually when I pop a column soap, I just like wrap a whole bunch of heating pads around it and then throw a towel over the whole thing and create a fire hazard. Yeah, so do that. I didn't do that for this one because I soaped it hot. And I did put it into the freezer at about the 6-hour mark, pulled it out, let it get too warm, and so we have kind of a mess. But the overall lather tests and everything should not be impacted by this at all because I did let this cure up for a few days, let them sit before I decided to give them a test. And I am going to show you the pH, the overall pH of the soap itself to determine just how, well, how close to neutral we're getting these soaps with what is effectively, we're using an acidic base or an acidic solution or liquid within the solution for our lye solution within all of this, right? And we do know based on testing the pH of the lye solution that it's still very, very basic. It's still very, very alkaline. And so we don't have to worry about that. However, some of the lye is consumed in that process. While it still may be very, very alkaline, some of the lye intended for the fatty acids were consumed in that process. So effectively what that means, as I did not adjust for that, is that you have a higher pH, or I'm sorry, excuse me, you have a higher superfat within your soaps. And so the working theory that I'm kind of going off of right now is by nature, a higher superfatted soap will be less basic, closer to neutral. Are you ever going to get it actually to neutral? No, and I don't think you should try. So this is, I don't know. Ultimately, testing pH is kind of a nothing burger when it comes to soap. It only gives us so much information, and that's not really a useful measure as to how the bar is going to perform and whether or not it is safe. Because if left to its own devices, even with a super high, like a very lye heavy soap, eventually it will become soap and it will mellow out. It may take a very long time, but it will do it. But testing the pH of the actual soap itself is useful for as far as additives and whatnot. And as we can see, I would go somewhere between 8 and 9 for this particular one as well. We are going to go ahead and run this with the actual, with the universal indicator as well to see the color that we're working with. And remember, the lighter blue it is, the closer to neutral it is. And so 4 drops in all of this and give it a little stir and see what we're working with. It is going to be closer to neutral, just like we saw with the pH strips itself, than you would see with just a stock standard soap. Remember, the ranges from soaps are generally between 8 and 10, but can go up to 11 or 12. I mean, whatever. People have reported all kinds of different, pH levels in their soap. But so this does mean that it is closer to neutral. What does that mean? Kind of nothing. If you get it too close to neutral, or if you get it neutral, soap no longer works the way soap is intended to work, right? The idea of having a water loving end and a water hating end within all of this that creates a bond around the dirt or the oils or the contaminants that are on your skin, that are on your hands. We remember all the articles that suddenly came out during 2020 where we were being told how to wash our hands and why soap was the best thing against, COVID, right? All of that. And so if you get too close to neutral, it needs to be alkaline by nature of what soap is and what it's meant to do. It will essentially render it kind of useless. But the lather, it's really delightful. It feels so effervescent and bubbly in my hands. I love it. I scented this with blood orange. I don't know if I told you. I love blood orange. It's an amazing scent, just straight, beautiful orange. And this makes me happy. I love everything about orange scents. I love everything about loofah soaps. And this lather is so good. I just had to keep, playing with it and washing my hands that have already been washed 14,000 times, but it's a good time for sure. So there's a loofah soaps. And as we can see, the vitamin C definitely helped out, or the actual orange juice helped out with the overall lather. And for that, I love it. Orange juice is kind of a slam dunk to put into a soap because it has such a high sugar content that it is going to lead to a really big bubble right off the bat. And that's even more important when you're incorporating something like a loofah or a rough material into your soap that could potentially inhibit that lather. And so this is a good thing for sure. I love orange juice generally. I love orange scents. I love all things orange. And so this is actually a really good one for me to have in my line all of the time. Unfortunately, I don't get to do a lot with oranges in the winter and fall months because, it's a summer thing, but I'm excited for this. So if you are interested in this, you can actually get it at soapandclay.com. It's there with the rest of my summer loofahs. So go check it out. That would be awesome. For those of you who have never made a loofah soap before, did I give enough information about the process of making loofah? Let me know. I do know that I have a members only video about loofah up where I kind of made a mess. Like I miscalculated the lye. I'm just giving the members all of my mistakes these days. So that's fun. If you're interested in seeing that video, you could actually become a member, and then it's shown to you. It's like magic. It's very, very cool. So yeah, you could do that. If you are interested in seeing what else we do and what we do with oranges in the cosmetic series, or what we do with the tomatoes or the spinach or the rhubarb, or if you want to stick around and see whether or not I put Anne Marie on blast for some carrot oil, you could subscribe and click the bell and you'll be notified if/when I do that. So that'd be cool. For those of you who are subscribed and are members and are my sudsers, hi, you're my people. Thank you for existing, for being you. I hope you guys are having an excellent week. Probably won't be here on Monday, but I will be back on Tuesday for another round of weird stuff that we can put in our soaps and or cosmetics. Carrot edition. Soapy fun. Bye.